Saturday, December 3rd, 2022. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss a film from Carl Theodor Dreyer, called Ordet, with your host, me, Professor Joe LaRocca, co-starring Little Odie Doty. I never called her that before. Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so a big thing happened in the film world recently. Again, I don't look this blue. I should have fiddled with the color temperature a little bit, although I am going with the intense shallow depth of field. Let's see if we can get... my desk lamp is exactly the same desk lamp that Matthew Broderick has in You Can Count on Me. We watched that in class, and I'll review it if I don't do anything new in the next few days, because I love that movie so much. I never have talked about it, and I haven't watched it in a few years, and boy, my students really liked it. Anyway, that's a Kenneth Lonergan movie, You Can Count on Me, from 2000, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about 1955 Carl Theodor Dreyer film Ordet, which is about a family that lives on a farm, the Brogan farm, and they have father has three male heirs, and one is agnostic. One is willing to compromise his faith in order to marry this woman who has a slightly different Christian belief than his, like a different outlook, although everything's basically the same, which is important because it's kind of about a little bit about the silliness of bickering over like little differences in religion and stuff, as long as you have the major concepts there. Isn't that the word, as they say? Oh yeah, the movie means the word. That's what that means, the word of God. And the third brother literally thinks he's Jesus of Nazareth. So you're like, okay, we got ourselves a movie. I told my buddy John about it, and he was like, okay, so it's just right out there about what it's about. Like, yeah, it's pretty literary. It's just like there's a character who thinks they're Jesus. We're going to be exploring religious themes here. And really the movie focuses around Inga, who is one of the agnostic brother's wife, who's about to have a child, and the father wants her to have a boy. She's had two girls. Bring me a boy. And it's her in her pregnancy, and then the younger son, the one who is in love with Peter, the tailor's daughter, who, yeah, they just like have different religious beliefs, and there's like a little socio-economic thing going on, where like the tailor is poorer than the farm. And at first I was like, because in modern, it's like, wait, is the farm poor or is the tailor poor? Which one is supposed to be down on their luck? Because they both look like they're not living it up exactly. This is a stark Scandinavian movie, So you go a little bit like, what's happening here? Anyway. And so it's about the father and Peter and the confrontation with them about like, are you going to allow this marriage to happen? So, and it feels kind of like a play, it's based on a play. It's shot kind of proscenium on a stage feeling, like we never really see the other direction. Everybody's always kind of facing camera. But the cinematography is great. Not mind-blowing for 1955, but very, very good. Like, there are Max Ophuls movies where the camera's flying around, and there are stories, like, that are nuttier, like Sunset Boulevard and things that I can think of that are kind of around the same time of this movie. So that wasn't what blew me away. Although the cinematography is very good, I found some of the performances to be a little bit, like, stilted, a little bit strange. I'm not just talking about the, Jonas or whatever, who believes he's Jesus. Obviously, that's a little bit stilted and strange. But there's something that kind of, with the exception of kind of the main core agnostic family, Inga and her husband, though they feel like human beings, and everybody else kind of feels like a little bit like an archetype, and we don't really get to know them. And I think that's probably intentional. I'm certainly not crapping on this movie. It is a classic. It's considered a masterpiece. I'd never seen it before. I'm trying to think of what genre movies I've seen. I've only seen like one or two, and I'm definitely going to check out a few others. Yeah, he's definitely like a master. But the main reason I watched it is that Sight and Sound, a famous British magazine, film magazine, released their top 100 critics movies of the past 100 years kind of thing. And it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. They put Jeanne Dielman as number one, which is a Chantal Akerman movie from 1975 that's like over 3 hours long. That is very, very, very good, but I don't know about being number one. The list is a little bit political, the critics list, in terms of, as it should be, kind of historically correcting some of the imbalance that has been in these lists by making sure that they get like experimental films and more atypical foreign films and experimental films. I already said that. And female filmmakers are much more highly represented, and anime is more highly represented than it was in similar lists of this style, where like a really prestigious kind of nose in their air type magazine about film makes a list. Number two is Vertigo. It's like, I like Vertigo a lot, and I do think it should be in like, I think it's one of Hitchcock's best movies, but it's not the second best movie ever made, and it's not better than Citizen Kane, Tokyo Story, In the Mood for Love, 2001, Mulholland Drive, Singing in the Rain, Sunrise, and The Godfather, which are all the next movies. I skipped over a few that I've never seen. Beau Travail, which is Bud. What's it called? Bud. It's a Herman Melville story. Bud, Johnny Bud or something like that. Whatever it's called. It's like a homoerotic sailor story, which I haven't seen, so I shouldn't. I have no real comment on or whether it should be in the top 10 or not. But also, like, Man with the Movie Camera by Jiga Vertov is amazing. Like, it's beautiful. It's like one of the cooler documentaries. It's. You could argue that it's like one of the best edited movies of all time, because it just like shows all these amazing editing techniques that you can use. But it's totally like it's an editor movie, not a director's movie, because when they also released this, so this was based on critics, they also released a top 100 by directors. And it's so fascinating to compare and contrast the list, because in the director's one, 2001 is number one. And I was like, yes, I'm officially more a director than I am a critic. It's proven. But I like both, and I'm none of this offends me. The whole point of making these lists is to provoke conversation and get people to like notice films that it's meaningless to put Godfather as number one. It's like, or Citizen Kane. It's like, wow, cool list, bro. We already have that one, you know. So I think this is interesting. And then my buddy Mike, who I was talking about, who only likes the best of things, he watched Jeanne Dielman last night or whatever, because he hadn't seen it and it was number one. He was just like, oh crap, I have to watch this, so that I can make comments on salon.com or whatever. I'm kidding, Mike. But and it was funny because he was halfway through it and we were talking on text, and he was like, hey, I just found this director's list too. And I was like, yeah, it's not number one there. Shut the movie. Fuck this movie. But he said, what did he write? He had great comments on it. He's a book critic by trade, so he's very well spoken. He said, so putting Jeanne Dielman at number one feels like a commentary on feels less like a commentary on gender and more reaction against the obsession with spectacle in contemporary films. She's an anti-hero, and the villain she faces is all the more scary because it's the banality of life itself. It's like watching paint dry on the Mona Lisa. That's how you do a review. That dude should have a podcast. That's Michael Patrick Brady, by the way. I'm quoting there, my friend. And I said, yes, but the film itself certainly has some commentary to make about the role of females in society and how they're kind of, you can only push them so far before they unleash their wicked power, as they should. I'm not criticizing it. So yeah, none of that. There are movies that I'm happy to see really high, like Singing in the Rain and 2001 and Tokyo Story and In the Mood for Love. I mean, I love those movies. That's great. But it's really fun to see like later down the list where things enter. And then there's some new movies where it's a little like, whoa, baby, that maybe shouldn't be in the top 100 movies ever. Like ones that stuck out. Where are the ones that stuck out as like, that definitely should not be in the top 100. Get Out probably should not be. I mean, I know that there's a lot of historic presence. Like in Yi by Edward Yang, that should be in like the top 10, not in the top 90. What the fudge? I've never seen Imitation of Life. I'm going to have to watch that. I was also proud. This is so arrogant. I was so proud that there was only a handful of movies that I hadn't seen. I was like, yeah, that's right, dude. You deserve it. What's the highest up movie that I haven't seen? That's a good question that I just asked myself as this gets uninteresting as I'm not looking at the camera anymore. Oh, yeah, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Great movie, but that only came out a few years ago, and that's number 30. That's bonkers. Daisies, the Czechoslovakian movie, that does not deserve to be 28. I get why it is, but come on. Highest up movie, I've never seen Late Spring by Ozu, and that's 22. And I've never seen, I guess, Beau Travail. So I guess I gotta watch that ASAP. Yeah, but otherwise, I felt very proud of myself. But also, I'm sure every adjunct film professor ever who's like in their 30s has seen all of these, because these are kind of the canonized movies. Anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think on the Sight and Sound thing. Maybe I'll link this one I'm looking at now. But otherwise, it's great. And yeah, this Ordet, yeah, definitely not for everybody. Like, I would say most modern audiences would get almost nothing out of it, because it's so much about faith and religion and things that are not massive parts of modern American society. In my, or I mean, I know people live incredibly religiously everywhere in the world, and it's not a controlling force as it was in 1955, at least. The same controlling force. I could be wrong about that as well. Anyway, yes, check out the list. Check out this films if you're like a film person. But otherwise, just watch The White Lotus or something more contemporary that you might be able to relate to a bit more. Anyway, like and to subscribe if you like to be here. I be here every day. And what I learned is a thing that I've always known, but it's the power. It's like this movie kind of has like a tantric effect where it's like it holds out for a really long time before it's like, okay, something like things are happening and it builds nicely. So, I mean, this is maybe a thing I knew before, but one of the strokes of brilliance of this movie is probably its pacing for over 2 hour movie. Some really good stuff, considering it all takes place like in a barn. I mean, like in a farmhouse. Black and white, not tons of great cinematography, but not like no fancy stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, check it out. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for watching. Sight and Sound, baby.